I'm Adam Collins. This is Crick Buzz Centerstage here at the Gabba in Brisbane after the third day between Australia and Pakistan. On the first 2 days of this encounter, the Australians set up the pins, and on day 3, they really started smashing them down. Pakistan are so far behind in this test match, the most likely scenario is tomorrow they'll be inflicted with their greatest defeat ever against Australia. For the first part of the day, the focus was how big can David Warner go? In the end, not very big at all. He only advanced his score from 151 to 154. He was out on the stroke of the opening hour. But Marnus Labuschagne had a job to do. He had to make his way from a half century, 54 overnight, towards 100 for the first time in Test cricket. And there was nothing that was going to stop him on his home ground. We know that he has the ability to make contributions. 5 half centuries through the course of 2019, his first proper full year of Test cricket. But it was here at the Gabba, where he's played so much for his state of Queensland, that he did it. He finally broke through, made 100, kicked on and made it a big one, finishing with 185 before he finally nicked off. For the most part, it felt as though he was unbeatable. He was hitting down the ground beautifully, gave not a chance throughout the duration of his long stay at the crease, which nearly extended to 300 deliveries. So Marnus Labuschagne was the top scorer in Australia's tally of 580. He had some help from Matthew Wade along the way, a couple of cameos at the end as well, but it was all about Marnus Labuschagne, the Hopetown boy, on a day which he will never forget. And here he was reflecting upon the technical changes that he made, which meant that he was able to tighten up his game against the moving ball and swinging ball and seaming ball, and now he can really prosper on the true and flat tracks at home.
I'm always sort of tinkering with stuff. If it's, not getting too low, making sure. But yeah, the fundamental stuff that I changed over in England has definitely changed my game, really. Just making sure, my bat path's very good, and that's really helped me. But pretty much since I started playing at Glamorgan, through that and then through the Ashes and then now. So I'm always tinkering with stuff, adjusting my game. But yeah, the big changes I made in England to face nip and swing bowling definitely helped.
In a really lovely moment of the press conference as well, Labuschagne talked about the emotion of making a century, especially a Test century, and the thoughts that were going through his mind last night when he struggled to sleep knowing he was going to wake up for one of the biggest days of his life.
I was coming to the ground today, you don't try and let your mind drift and you try and stay quiet in the moment. But, you can't help but think, imagine if you get your first Test century, home ground. It was amazing, leading up to when I got it. I was sort of thinking, just stay patient, like they're going to come, then you can get your shot. And I said, look, if it's up here and it's full, I'm gonna have a crack here. Just, throw the bat. And I was real greedy. I tried to go too square, and I was lucky enough. I got a sort of thick edge through the gully region. And then it was just the, looking back and seeing it just trickle on the ground. You're like, oh, thank you. And then obviously just, you always think as a kid, how are you going to celebrate 100? And that was nothing like I thought. My emotion took over, and it was very exciting, and a dream come true.
Sure enough, carrying such a hefty lead into the second innings, Australia ahead by 340 runs when Pakistan went out to bat again. The scenario was such a tough one for the visiting side. They seldom deal well with the bounce of Australia. We've seen it repeatedly in tours in this part of the world. Indeed, they've only ever won 4 Test matches in Australia. And on days like today, you can kind of see why. They just couldn't handle the pace and movement of Mitchell Starc initially, who made the incision and took 2 wickets in his first 3 overs. And then Josh Hazlewood and Pat Cummins went to work. The latter, Cummins, picking up the all-important wicket of Harris Sohail, who at different points through his career has looked like he could really turn it on. But in this Test match so far, he's been far more effective with the ball than he has been with the bat. The classy Babar Azam, who started quite nicely after failing in the first innings, and the opener, Shan Masood, have done a decent job after being 25 for 3. They've got Pakistan to 64 for 3 by the close. But if realistically they're any chance of Australia batting again, as low as it is, they're going to have to do a whole bunch of spade work tomorrow. Indeed, they'll probably have to bat together for the better part of 2 or 3 sessions. Very, very unlikely. The more probable scenario is that yet again they'll be routed by Australia in these conditions, and routed big time. And Waqar Younis, who's here with the team as part of the coaching staff for this tour, reflected on the challenges that Pakistan sides have with the bouncing ball and why they find it so hard to adapt tour after tour after tour.
Look, it goes for most of the countries. When they travel abroad, when they go to, in other in their backyard, or should I say, in their home grounds, it is always difficult. Even when Australia goes to UAE or when they go to India, it's not easy. So because they struggle against the turning ball, it is very much same for Pakistan when we come on the Australian soil. Tall, fast bowlers, and they got good pace and they bowl good areas. It takes a long time for any bowling attack to get it right, and that's why most of the team struggles here.
With the experienced players Azhar Ali and Asad Shafiq already back in the shed, as I mentioned before, it all really comes down to Babar Azam. Can he take the next step as a Test cricketer tomorrow? More than likely they're going to be thrashed, but if he can bat for 3 or 4 hours and really make a statement, they'll take something to Adelaide next week. And indeed, for a man that's played so much Test cricket for so little yield as far as big scores are concerned, with so much potential, tomorrow might be a day that's all about him. By contrast, if the Australian bowlers can get busy in the morning, this could be all over by lunch. We'll see. Adam Collins, I'll be here, of course, for Cricket Buzz Centre Stage. I'll talk to you then.